Rules and engrossment meeting and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy,
Here.
Alderman Vollmer,
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Engrossment,
Present.
Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
5 present, you have a quorum.
All right. For the committee members, one of the things that I like to just do some housekeeping because I'm new as chair of this committee and I wanted us to have some points of reference for how we're going to operate. It'll be rare that we have more than one thing on the agenda because usually these items have a lot, you know, when things get this far, it requires some time to it. And so I will also respect your time as a committee member and would like to have meetings last no longer than an hour and a half. So if there's any way that we can do that, we should do that and just extend to another meeting. I know all of us are on many committees, and we also have other responsibilities. Also, just to share with you, Alderwoman Christina Agrassi is the vice chair of this committee. And we will definitely support each other. Whether I can't be here, she will chair, of course, and I'm going to also rely on her. I tend to do a lot of research on my own, so there will be opportunities where we will bring some information to the committee to work on a rule that we might be looking at. So resolution number 13 is before us today, and the resolution is presented by Alderman Jeffrey Boyd. It is interesting. Let's start there. Okay. And so what I'd like to do is have Alderman Boyd present the resolution to us, and so we can have some discussion. And I should also say to you up front, I will not be accepting a vote today. So we're going to hear this resolution. We want to discuss it. We want to get to some better understandings of where we might or might not go forward. But I will not be taking a vote today. So that will allow us to have more time to really deal with the resolution. Okay? All right. So I see the president is going to sit in with us today. Let's give him a few seconds to get settled in. And Alderman Boyd, you can begin with your process, explaining to us your intent for the resolution, number 13.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm going to pass out some documents as I speak. Basically, the resolution has to do with requesting what I thought some very simple information. I'll go back to a meeting that we all had together.
Madam Chair, point of order. The only thing that could be discussed today related to this resolution is if it should, if the committee should hold hearings on it. So first thing that would have to happen today is this resolution would have to be passed out to the full board, and then that would empower the committee to hold hearings on it.
I do understand that part of the process, Mr. President. And so, as I shared before, I don't intend to take a vote today.
Okay.
Okay. I want to hear what has to be said. There will be no vote taken today at all, and we will continue with the process. So I'd like to move forward.
Yeah, I missed the first part.
I'm sorry. You weren't in here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. No, we will be taking a vote. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Again, the resolution came about as a result of a request for what I thought was some simple information, which was a copy of all the preference sheets that each alderman had submitted. And the reason I was requesting that information, Madam Chairperson, is during some discussion in a meeting that we had, people had concerns about assignments on committees. And one of the things that the president said was he takes a lot of things in consideration, which I'm sure, you know, is the right, thoughtful thing to do. But there were a lot of committee members, Board of Aldermen members, that had some trepidation about how the assignments may come out. So no one knows what the popular committees are except the president, because the president had all the information that was submitted by each member of the Board of Aldermen. So I wanted to get a copy of all of that so that I can look and rank and see what the popular committees are. Well, The meeting we had in question was on the 17th of April. I'm going to pass out some emails. Well, email, pass it around. I requested that information at 5 o'clock that afternoon after our meeting, and I got no response from the president's office or him. I sent it to the president, Dave Sweeney, the clerk, Tom Shepard, his chief of staff, Mary Cullins, his secretary. I got no response. On the 29th of April, which is after the committee assignments came out, I sent in a subsequent request. I sent it to the president, both to his personal and city email, to the clerk, to his secretary, Mary Cullins, to his chief of staff, Tom Shepard. Again, to no avail. I then stood up at the Board of Aldermen and requested the information publicly, to no avail. Well, finally I decided, okay, I'll do a resolution. So the resolution intent was to get the attention of the president, remind him that it's a public document and subjected to the Sunshine Law, which my understanding of the Sunshine Law, there's no specific form that you have to fill out. You just request the information. Now, most people that look at it, they'll give you a sample and you can add a whole lot of substance to it. But as I look through it, there's nothing that says it has to be in a certain form. So I felt that I did my due diligence to make the request. Now, the president's office did finally send me a response to my request, basically stating that the document that was prepared by his office that listed the rankings of the committee members was a survey. I disagree that it was a survey. It was a public document. I've consulted with Dave Sweeney and other attorneys presenting this document. No one could agree that it was a survey. Therefore, I felt that I was entitled to the information. Now, let's suppose that the president's office doesn't have the information. It's somehow destroyed. The problem with that is I requested the information before committee assignments were made. This document that was used in the course of us doing business. The president used that document in order for us to be able to navigate and do our business as legislators. And if you look at what the state statute, how it defines a record based on the information that the president's office submitted to me, it says a record is defined as any document, book, paper, photograph, map, sounding, recording, or other material, regardless of physical form or characteristics, received pursuant to law or in connection with the transaction of official business. This document was used as a transaction of official business. The definition includes these records created, used, and maintained in electronic form. Then it goes on to talk about non-records. And that's where I think the president and I and other legal opinions differ in the fact that it's actually a survey. But in light of all of that, I was perplexed at trying to understand why I would be denied this information, because what the president has told us, he assigns the committees again based on race, gender, qualifications, what people ask for, and so on and so forth. And so I was thinking, what's the big deal? So it required me to want to just dig a little deeper. I'll pass this around. Since I didn't have the information that I requested from the president, I had to make some assumptions. And what I've done is I've created a matrix of every alderman and every committee assignment. And what's interesting,
Madam Chair, I know we're going to let them continue just so we don't have to go through this 10 other times, but just for the record, the stuff we're dealing with now.
Madam Chair, is that point of order, Madam Chair?
Alderman Boyd, I'm going to allow the president to interrupt for just about 10 more seconds.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because the stuff we're talking about now is good that we're just gonna go and get it out of the way. But essentially, the testimony he's giving now is the testimony we would get if the resolution passed, right? So the resolution is to empower the committee to begin to look at what he's talking about today. But the things that he's given today goes beyond just whether we should take up whether the committee should take up looking into this resolution. But we can continue.
I totally agree with your stance on this, but the committee can't make a decision without information. But this is the alderman can present information, but as a committee chair, as I shared earlier, I'm not sitting here today to take a vote about Resolution 13. I'm here to get discussion over with. Then this committee will evolve and move forward in a timely and efficient manner to determine whether or not this will be taken up. Okay, and so even though there's contention on what is truth or not, or whether something has value or not, we're going to determine that. We're going to determine it, but it's definitely going to be in a proper fashion. And I'm not going to rush to take any vote. I don't know if there's going to be a vote at the end, because I don't know what these people sitting at this table as a committee will conclude. And let me just say another, because I gave a lot of information early on right before you came in, so the committee would understand where we're going with this. Let me add one more thing to this. I talked about where we're going, but I also didn't say anything because I wanted that to be a part of the actual committee process and not outside of it. But when you're dealing with a document and an exercise that came from the full board vote on the floor with a 22 no vote, we just need to, okay? Yeah. Let it go. Okay. Move forward. Let's move forward on.
Okay, so the fidelity of this is may not be true and accurate because I didn't have the data that I was looking at. But as you see, what's in purple is what, during my experience here at the Board of Aldermen, my tenure, I've highlighted like those as, you know, committees that really get work done on behalf of the city of St. Louis that meets probably once a month on average. And I looked at, based on the president's remarks about how he makes a committee assignment, I just found it very interesting, and it just made me really, really want to wonder why I couldn't get the original information that I asked for. And as you can see, I've color-coded things for ease of looking at. The green is every alderman who has 6 committee assignments. The gold color are 3 committee assignments with committee that rarely meets. The other pinkish looking color is committees with less than 35% minority. The little blue is committees with less than 30% female. And on average, there are at least 5 committee assignments per alderman, based on average. However, you will notice that there are certain aldermen with the gold at the bottom that got 3 committee assignments. I'll take one out, the alderman from the 10th. Everybody else, it appears, and this is just my editorial, it appears that the alderman from the 2nd, the 5th, the 14th, the alderman from the 22nd, myself, and the alderman from the 26th were kind of isolated to committees that basically don't do much of anything. They don't meet frequent at all. And it kind of flies in the face of some of the editorial comments at the meeting on the 17th, that morning that we had coming from the president. The other irony that I thought was kind of funny is that I introduced an amendment to the rules and it fell by a vote of 8 to 20. Would you believe that every alderman that voted for that amendment was all put on one committee together? They were all put on health, every one of them. It's probably a coincidence, with the exception of the alderman from the 23rd. No, 25th, I'm sorry. So I thought that was interesting. I also looked at, the gender makeup of the committees, the ethnicity makeup of the committees, and as you can see, legislation is 20% African American, 80% white, rules and engrossment. Well, I'm just gonna go through the ones that's highlighted, because most of the ones I didn't are fairly decent as far as the ratio mix. So we look at, looks like rules and engrossment is 33% African American. We look at public utilities, 33%. We look at parks, 30%. We look at personnel administration, 29%. We look at public employees, 13%. And what's really ironic about public employees, that's the alderman from the 26th. He chairs that committee. And everybody on there, with the exception of himself, is white. I just thought that was kind of odd. Now, let's look at female versus male. Public safety, 22% female. Public utilities, 22% female. Personnel administration, 27% female. Public employees, 25% female. Ways and means, 13% female. So I say all this is to kind of support what some alderman's trepidation was. If you're not a friend of the president, you're not going to really be put on any committees to do anything. And what it indirectly does and how it impacts our communities is that you're voted in by the people of your community, but you don't get a chance to provide a vote on how the city does its business if you're not on one of these, real working committees that impacts our quality of life on a regular basis, like public safety, streets, housing, urban development, transportation, and ways and means.
Alderman Boyd, did you have any more documents? Because I don't have any more documents. Okay.
And with the exception of, I want to make sure that I justify how it's a public document. So it was mailed in an envelope. We all got this at home in an envelope as far as requests for committee assignments. So it was an official document. And again, it was requested prior to final committee assignments. And that's all I really have. I just appreciate you giving an opportunity to kind of make this presentation, Madam Chairperson. I wasn't to take up a whole lot of the committee person's time. I just wanted to put the information out there. And it's a little troubling that it seems that the president, is being, I think, more than unfair to certain audit people. And I think as a good leader, we really need to balance what we're doing. Even if we don't like each other, we should be able to work with each other. And I always want to try to strive to do that.
Okay. I'd like to make a few comments before I open it up to the committee, because I want to clarify a couple of things that will not be a part of this process from this point forward. This resolution, I just took a moment to kind of go through it again. The resolution number 13 is an absolute request for a specific form. And so all the things that have been presented to us today deals with other things and not actually the form. So that's the only thing we're really dealing with today is the form. And you having access to all of the forms of the like that came from the various board members. And so we will not be taking into we will not accept these documents as part of the process for this committee, because that's something separate. It's really not about the form. It's knowledge that we don't mind having, but it will not be considered as we are moving forward with the process. Because I want to keep it clean. I want to keep it simple. I don't want it to get any more complicated than it has to be, okay? So I will not be accepting those documents that were passed out for this particular process. My next thing here is this document, these forms are going to be referred to as the form is going to be referred to as, I just took a note right here. Oh, here we go. it is going to be referred to as a participatory form, okay? Because there is no law that we have that says that we get to make decisions about what committees. None of our rules say that. We don't get to choose that. And so this is just a participatory form. And unfortunately for me, I don't even keep a copy of what I sent because I don't care one way or another. And it really has no validity to it. It's just what's on your mind. You know, it has no basis of authority. Okay, on either side to some real degree, because the president is the president, and the president makes the choices. And so we'll refer to this as a participatory form that is being requested from this point on, and not a survey. Okay. Also, I have one other note that I wanted to share with the committee. I wanted to share with the committee that it is always the opportunity for us to ask any other alderman to share any information that they choose to share with us. And so for me, unfortunately, like I said, I didn't keep the document, so I can't help you. But we may end up, if that's what you want to do, you want to send out a formal request to each alderman and see what they ask for. Because technically, we don't know if any of this is absolute either. So we really can't base anything on that except for what happened in the past. And I'm a real mathematician, okay? So when I copulate this in its real form and put the percentages as a whole based on the entire grouping here, it pretty much balances out to close to a 48% balance. And you can't get much closer than that. And I really wanted to suggest you might look at that too. And I do know you have smaller percentages with some, larger percentages with others. But when you look at this whole black, white, female, male, and you do the total compilation, you come up right at 48%. And that's pretty good, you know. So I wanted you to look at the document in its totality. A lot of us don't want to be on 6 committees. We probably should be to learn some things, but we don't want to be, okay? So I know I was eager when I first got here. I think I was on 7. And Lord have mercy, that's all I can say on that one. But I want us to look at that too, because that's a choice too that people have. Some people want to put a lot of time in, they want to learn a lot, and you know, they're begging to be on more committees and more committees. And a lot of us are backing off, especially some of the senior aldermen. So I heard that amen over there. Yeah. So let's try to kind of balance all this out, okay? And I understand, you know, how it could look strange, okay? But we want to put all the perspectives on the table, okay? And I think that's my last thing. Because we'll get into, and there are 3 items that I'd like for us to discuss as we move forward, and I'd like to ask the committee members to think about it as they're asking their questions, because there are 3 things that are absolutely important here. One is to consider whether or not these are non-documents under sunshine, and the second one is whether or not this should be considered a privilege of the president, and check back in history to see how it's been handled in the past. And of course, as we know, every new president has the right to make their decisions about how they want to, you know, operate. But it's always good to look at history just to have information. And the email request from April 17th and 29th, and then the May 1st request at the full board. Is all of that somewhat not valid at this point, based on the fact that there was a full vote from the board that the resolution 13 failed on? So I just want to kind of ask questions and kind of, you know, filter this out before we go any further, because I can't take a vote today because we got a lot of stuff to figure out, okay? Yes, sir.
Okay, you mentioned about it failing on the floor. Abuse of the rule. That should have never happened.
Abuse of the rule?
Yes. There was a point of order called. Every resolution, I think it may be 33, I'm not sure the number, but if you introduce a resolution, it moves through the process like this. You can first ask for unanimous consent. If there's an objection, you have a right to ask for suspension of the rules. You need 20 votes.
Right.
You have a right to ask for it to be referred to a committee.
Right.
That's what we did. If it fails on that, the default is rules, because the resolution, because the rule says it shall be assigned. So we should have never taken a vote to act on it. I mean, as far as what I just heard you say was almost like we acted on it, then it failed.
Oh, no. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all.
What did you say about it failing?
No. I only mentioned the fact that there was a vote where the rule.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I was.
Okay.
I was just
right,
explaining how we got to where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
And Madam Chair, I have to, jump in here because, there's been said multiple times, and he just the alderman from 22nd just referenced it again, said there was abuse of the rules. I think that the board was more than generous with its time on that particular Friday. We went through several votes. We gave the entire board, including myself, gave the alderman ample time, ample votes, roll calls, and the like to try to do whatever he wanted to do with the resolution. The fact of the matter is that this is just a little personal beef that now is tearing into the Board of Aldermen's time. Several aldermen took their board bills to his committee just yesterday, and he refused to pass them out of committee until they go have lunch, breakfast, or dinner, or drinks with them. And that is just outrageous. And he said—
Point of order, Madam Chairperson. What does those comments have to do with what we're doing here?
He said he's doing that.
Well, Alderman Boyd, I allowed you to make some comments that probably shouldn't have been made as well. So let's just hear the president.
Yeah. And he told those particular aldermen he's doing that because they didn't support his resolution on the floor. And when you get a member that begins to operate like that, you end up in a situation just like you see at the House, the Missouri House, the U.S. Congress, and everything else, and alike, where you have gridlock. This board, I think we can all be proud of the fact that every session we introduce 350 some odd board bills, and of those 350 some odd board bills, probably 347, 348 passed right through. Yeah, only 2 of them sit, and that means that this is a very productive board. This type of petty, personal stuff will begin to erode the core of this board. And I've asked Alderman multiple times. He came by the office, asked for a meeting. I said, let's meet, and he left. But I just don't, it is getting to the point where, he is now starting to pick on some of the junior aldermen and things of that nature, and he's out of line. And he really needs to step back and reassess this whole issue. And then, I'm sitting here, my son Max is here today. I'm African American. His mother's white. Half of his family's white. His grandmother's white. His cousins are white. And he has to sit here and listen to the alderman from 22nd try to make, and his other grandmother and grandfather that he just buried is African American. He has Hispanic cousins. And I have 2 older daughters that I'm very proud of. And he has to sit here today because this alderman from 22nd's petty personal beef and try to make it sound like I would be purposely trying to go after white people. or go after women and not support women and stuff. And I thank you for pointing out the fact that it's near perfect balance.
It is.
And you know,
I've never
this is that's getting outrageous. The first two, the other thing is he said he issued this resolution on its face is illegitimate, because what he says in that resolution is that, you know, he has these sunshine requests, open documents requests that he made, and there wasn't any open documents requests at all. He showed it with your email. So can you imagine, just noodle this for a second. Every person in the community that sends an alderman an email and says, can you provide me your schedule for the last week? If you don't, hold on a second, if you don't respect, according to using the same logic, let's just play it out. Anybody that asks you anything without issuing an official open documents request, according to the way the alderman is approaching this, any email or whatever somebody sends you, you need to respond and have given them everything that they requested, no questions asked, within 3 days, without it being an official request. In fact, we didn't receive an official request until well after this resolution was issued, after he was consulted by this board's attorney. And then we received the official request, in which we responded to right away. These forms are survey forms, and a survey is something that we use for reference, because there isn't any official act that has to be attached to that form. For example, if it was required that when the alderman from the 22nd says that he wants HUDs, if it was required that I give him HUDs, then that would be something different than a survey form. A survey form is something that's used for reference. A survey form is me asking everybody, hey, what's on your mind? What would you like to do this next session? Tell me what you like to do. And then I follow that up with additional questions and talks, and I look around the table, and most of the people, including last session, all from the 22nd, we had those discussions. Okay, I know you said this, but what about this? Couldn't you get the same thing done that way? That kind of stuff. And we try to maintain as good a balance and try to do it as fairly as possible. Then there are certain aldermen that they pick a slate of committees, and that's all they serve on. And if you give them something else, they say they won't serve. Like the alderman from the 10th, he has a very specific thing that he does every session. You know, and then when one time he gave us a list, and it was a very specific thing. We changed it up some because we thought he was flexible. He came back and said, nope, I'm sorry, I don't change. This is all I want to do. This is the slate. This is what I do every session. Right? And it was one of the first times at the board. I said, all right, I understand. So we try to do that every time through. But
Mr. President, I'm gonna cut you off.
Okay. Just to wrap it up. You know, again, just like I did on the floor, just like I've done privately and the like, I'm asking the aldermen again, aldermen from the 22nd, this board, these committees, we all have a lot to do this session. You know, these are personal beefs that now you're starting to take out on other alder people. And all that's going to do is continue to erode things, and it's not going to be productive at all. And finally, you know, I resent the fact that you say health doesn't account for anything. We had a health disparity study in the city of St. Louis that showed that the residents of North St. Louis had major health disparity issues. If you look at some of the members that are on that committee, if you take a look at some of the health disparities within their communities, including yours, the alderman from the 26th, the alderman from the 5th, take a look at the health disparity study and compare it to your wards, and then you'll understand why we put you on health. But you look at it and you want to draw some other reference to it and say the only reason you're on health is because you've been put out, banished to the Bering Straits. Accept it for what it is. Work to try to make some positive things happen for your community in this city, by talking to the health department, engaging in what's going on down there, talking to the health department, say, hey, why don't we do X, Y, and Z with the public schools to help impact health? What's going on with the school lunches? There's a ton of things you can do within the framework of that committee. So I'm asking you to do that and not to restate what you stated here publicly, because I think that it does a disservice to that whole issue, because it's a big issue.
I wanted to say to the committee and to actually all that are listening, the game is politics. I don't particularly care for it as a person, but I'm in it. We have a lot to do. Our city needs a lot. And so, as most of you know, you don't see me much because I'm in my community, I'm doing my work, and I'm all over this region trying to help change. I hope that we can get past this, and I pray that the people that are also trying to assist us in this community, who have projects before a particular committee, are not punished, or those projects are not held up, or they look at us and say, if this is how they operate, I'll go spend my money and do my business somewhere else. And so I hope that that is not how we operate with our committees. But again, it's politics, and I can't tell anybody what to do. When you have the power over a committee, you can do as you choose, as I will do today, and move forward. So, based on that, I wanted to make sure that all of the committee members had an opportunity to speak, and then I'll come back to you, Alderman Boyd, but I need to make sure that we get the things on the table that they're concerned about and move forward. So we will start with the senior alderman, Terry Kennedy.
Senior alderman.
We should come with some rights and privileges. Right.
It's not Terry Kennedy Senior?
Yeah.
Actually, I had a question of our counselor.
Oh, go right ahead. Is he here?
Here's coming back in.
Oh, here he comes. Okay.
I have a question. I have a question of you. Sure. Okay. A record is, I'm reading here what this, you may not have it, it's from all of this from the Missouri Revised Statutes? No.
No, this is from
From the Secretary of State.
This is from the Secretary of State.
Right.
What is what would be considered a record? For example, if I take some handwritten notes in a meeting, would that be considered a record? My notes?
If you're given the notice that potentially, it potentially could be. It's nothing that I don't think needs to be retained. I don't think
right.
Under a duty for that.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, are drafts of before you have officially filed it, or drafts that you may have of a board bill be considered a record?
No.
So why would that not be considered one?
Well, because it's not the official document that's going to be on file. It's a work product, and you're still working on it.
I got you. Okay.
I don't claim to be a sunshine expert by any means.
It just
of course, and there's no black and white on that. And that's what the Attorney General's office is for, not the Secretary of State's office.
And I've been there many times on opinions on this.
That's
okay.
And just to underscore, the reference sheets that we send out we don't retain those because according to the way we've always looked at Sunshine Law, they're survey forms, right? Mm-hmm. There isn't any official action that's required on that document, right? That document, we're not officially required to request.
You're not officially
we're not
required to use that document.
Exactly.
Or to have that document.
Yeah.
You can make the appointments without them.
Yeah, we don't even have to look at them.
But if I understand correctly, the material that you would send out that shows the appointments would be considered a
Right.
record.
That would be record.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be record for
because
sure.
that's official. And then, which is why the first time this came up, I asked the alderman from the 22nd. I said, just request it from the members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the board members may have retained them, and he can request.
Yeah,
them,
especially if
the
the secretary emailed it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he can get them there.
That answers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, sir. Alderman Ballman.
Gosh, I must be down here too long if I'm right behind you now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, believe it.
All right. First of all, on the pretty color page sheet, JB, that's the Jeffrey Boyd rules change. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know. Okay. And the participatory form is what they call when you send that request out. I've gotten that ever since I've been down here for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Is it mandatory that is sent out?
No, I think we
So
should end it.
I don't know if there's any president in the past who's never done it. There's no history or record of that. I don't know. But I got it when Shrewsbury was here, and so it's not required by our rules that is sent out. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
The Alderman Vaccaro.
I have a few things, but, you know, you're showing the makeup, but you're not showing the makeup of the board isn't exactly either black, white, women either. It's not balanced. So when you have an imbalanced system, trying to come up with a balanced process does also, that also makes it hard to do. And then I also probably took issue with that stuff yesterday as different people talked to me. Because then if you want to take things and say this was racial or not racial or bias or not bias, out of the 5 people you refused to hear, or you heard but refused to take votes on, how many were white, black, or women? If you take that, it would look racially and sexually biased. But it's not. It's just how the bills that were presented. But you didn't intentionally, I would hope you didn't intentionally say I don't like particular, men, women, race. But it's just how, the same thing how the board's made up. It's how the things are presented. You did it as the chairman of the committee. You had the right to not take a vote. But I take offense to this because I do sit on a bunch of committees, and I take offense that if we're trying to say that we're treating women, minorities, or whites differently, do I think Lewis puts people on that he feels he can work with on certain committees? Sure, and if I was the president of the board, I would too. I know that during the caucuses, you tried to take away the authority of everybody that isn't that doesn't have seniority, and you proved that again yesterday when everybody without seniority, you didn't take up their votes. So, I don't know if Jeffrey, and I'm going to say used to because I'm disappointed, but I had a lot of respect for you. I certainly took you in citywide campaigns and stuff, but I'm disappointed when petty politics is taken over. If you guys need to go in the back room and shout this out, that's what should happen. But if you expect me to vote yes on any of this nonsense, I'll just give my last statement. Grow up. You guys need to go in the back room, talk this out, get over it. We need to move forward. I'm not gonna, anyway, I'm just upset over it. And I really get upset when we start bringing things in, suggesting that things are, I know I send polls out, I know the mayor sends polls out. If we start doing this, then we're gonna start doing sunshine requests as to how things came out, what was it? Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't even mean to go any farther, but it's just ridiculous.
He doesn't know how to end the conversation, don't you know?
Okay, then I'll help him. Are you done, Alderman?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Engrossment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you consider having an opinion requested from the Attorney General's office?
I did not.
Okay. And Dave, do you know if there's any case law that defines what surveys are?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, no other questions.
No. I really want to have an opportunity here, because there is no rule. See, and that's the other part. There's no rule to support anything like this that we can reach out and say, well, you know, the rule says. And so, is that a responsibility we want to take on? But my first inkling is, don't ever send that out again. That's my first inkling. Don't ever ask an opinion of nobody, okay? Because I know one session, I never sent mine back, and I think you had to call me.
Yeah, a lot of people don't send them back.
Most people don't send them back, so you have to call, and then at the end of the day, when I keep telling you I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
but you still put me where you needed me to be.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of times I'm not happy. I tell you that.
Yep.
I don't have an issue with telling you when I'm not happy. But I got to move on. I got to move on, and I got to do my work, and I got to do the work of this board and this city to keep the work moving. And I can't, and I don't deal with petty politics well, and you all know that from working with me. And I'm just going to say this, I hate this camera's on, but you know I will cuss you out. I don't care, because you got to get past that point when you're having those kinds of disagreements. And a lot of times you just got to get down and dirty with it and get it over with. And walk away from it. It has to be over with at some point. And you know, I sat on so many boards as president, and I'm going to tell you something. I had a guy on the school board, every school board meeting, he chewed me out a minimum of 30 minutes. Most times it ran 45 minutes to an hour. But at the end of that, I said, thank you very much. I went on through my agenda and got the business of that school board done. I never said a dirty word about him. I never put him out of anything he wanted to be in. None of that. Because I had to do the work of that school board. And we ended up being best friends, and I have an honorary street name for him. Because he ended up coming to me and saying, I respect you. Because I never did anything nasty.
You named the street Dead End?
You were wrong for that. You were wrong for that. Yeah, so, you know, guys, we got to do this. And I have even went to the other degree, where I had a school board member that just wouldn't follow the rules. And so I had to go to court and have him sanctioned. So he couldn't speak at no board meetings. Okay. He couldn't get certain documents for a while, everything. So let's pause for a minute for the cameraman.
We got 10 minutes left.
You got 10 minutes left, okay. So I think I need to take those minutes and allow Alderman Boyd to move to close out for today, if that's necessary.
I'd like to call for a vote. I mean, I know you said you're not, but I'd like to just call for a vote and be done with this.
I would like to hear from the alderman first. I'd like to hear from the alderman first.
We think a vote goes to the floor.
Yes.
Because I started this meeting, I said I wouldn't take the vote.
Madam Chairperson, I want to clear up some things that were said so that I'm clear. Because I certainly don't want to offend anybody. But when I talked about how I analyzed all the committee assignments, that wasn't about race whatsoever.
But that's how it's outlined.
But wait a minute, let me finish. It was more than just about race. I took the comments of the president on how he said he wants to balance committees. So I'm only demonstrating how the committees were balanced. I am not, by far not attempting to make this a race issue. Because if you look at this, you can say, well, it's a race issue, it's a gender issue. You can make all kind of issues about it. That is not my intent. And I want to be very clear. I'm only pointing out, based on my analysis of the information that I have, how it looks. I'm not making it a race issue whatsoever. So I want to clarify that.
How it looks, meaning what?
Okay, so the president talked about, he gave every opportunity for this resolution to be heard on the floor, and it took up a lot of time, consumed a lot of the members' time. I want people to go back and look at the tape from that meeting. The president talked way more than I talked. I was trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I want to clear up. I want to clear up. Exactly. But listen to what I'm saying, Madam Chairperson. Don't make it seem like I was taking up and consuming people's time and being wasteful when I was trying to follow the order of the rules. That's all I was trying to do. So I want to clear that up. I wasn't talking a lot.
We have a lot of long-winded folks that take up time, so we ain't talking about that, okay? It's not a part of this.
As far as I never said anything about the health committee doesn't do any work and disparage the health committee
honestly,
whatsoever.
You referred to it as a committee that had no real purpose. Basically, it's what you, and we can always play the tape back, but that's how you kind of referred to it. You dumped all these people over there.
No.
It made it look like it was a committee of all white that would probably not work with the chair. I don't know about any of that, but Alderman, I want to clear up something about this document right here.
Yes.
You can't use, when you use numbers and you don't show the whole effect of the numbers, then they have no validity. Because the first thing is, this Board of Aldermen is majority white. This Board of Aldermen then goes to the next minority of it is the women, and then the black takes up. Well, we have 12 now or 11 now. 11. So any way you look at it, anyhow, it doesn't matter. There is no way that either one of those minority groups is going to be the majority in anything ever, because it's impossible because of the numbers.
Well, I disagree with you, Madam Chairperson. The president has full
You take
authority.
11 people
No.
and make them the majority of anything. Show me that.
No. What I'm saying is we're talking committee assignments.
We have 15 committees.
We have committee assignments.
Take 11 people and make them the majority in assignments on those 15 committees. Take 11 people. It is the law of the land of numbers. It cannot be done. And I'll bring a top mathematician in here, and I guarantee you it cannot be done. And see, this is the problem I have with putting politics in things. Now, if you want, I'm gonna bring facts to you because I don't have time to play. I'm gonna bring facts to you. It is impossible by the law of numbers to take 11 people and make them the majority of a process of 28. Let's talk about it.
Madam Chairperson,
I don't want
committee assignment. I'm not talking about the board.
That is the committee assignment.
So
you have 28 people.
If you have
11 of them black and 11 of women.
Okay, so are you suggesting that if you had 11 people on a committee and you had 6 blacks and 5 whites on the committee, that they couldn't be a majority?
No,
that's not what I said.
But we're talking about committee
I said the
assignment.
absolute across the board.
Right, I get that. I get that.
But that's what you presented as it being something. And then that's why I'm saying don't do that.
I presented facts and
That's
just
not
how
facts.
things
That's
work out.
not
I want to go back to health because, again, I don't remember saying anything disparaging about the health committee. I pointed out that everyone who voted for that amendment was assigned to the health committee. That is what I said, except Shane Cohn. Everybody was assigned to the health committee. I just thought that was pretty interesting. That's all I said about that. I didn't say anything disparaging about the health committee.
But decisions had already been made.
I was removed.
Did you look at the health disparities within
Mr. President, I'm not talking about health disparities. I'm not the chairman of the health committee, so I'll take the leadership. I extend the leadership to the chairman person of the health committee on whatever the health committee is going to do. I'll serve as a member at the pleasure of the Alderman for the 2nd Ward. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. But that's the leader on that committee, and I'll take my cues and responsibilities from the chairperson of that committee.
I need to pause for the Q&A.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take an opportunity very quickly. Alderman Kennedy needs to leave. And then I also want to ask, I think I only have one other alderman in here, and I want to make sure that if you had some comments you'd like to make, that you have an opportunity to do that. Okay?
So you're not taking a vote today?
No, so we are not going to take a vote today.
Well, Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we don't take a vote, this issue remains open. We continue to have to come back because it's still alive. If we take a vote and the resolution fails, then that pushes the that creates an opportunity for the alderman for the 22nd. You know, it gave him his time in court. It gave him an opportunity now to get back together with me so we can begin to talk and get to something constructive. Because as long as it remains open, I think that's what he's after. He's just wanting to continue to put this thing out.
First of all, I don't pay attention to things like that, so you need to know that to be the truth.
I know
okay.
Well, and so, I know that about
all right, okay. So I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
But here's where I'm at today, because I am a person who wants to have cooperation from my committee members, and I always, if there's a question about one of my recommendations, then I'll take it to my committee, and that's how we'll resolve that, okay? So, how many committee members want to go for a vote today?
Madam Chairperson, I actually wasn't going to ask for a vote today, but if that's what y'all want to do, you can go right ahead. But
so I've got, because he's always a member of every committee. So I've got 4 committee members that want to take a vote. I really didn't want to take a vote today, but I'm just going to, let me digest this for a second and allow all the women from the 2nd Ward to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right.
I did not initiate a resolution, and I do have my form that, if you wanted to see it, that I did submit.
Okay.
I asked to be on health #1, but I knew I was going to get health because I knew I was going to go for that as a chairman.
Okay. Okay.
Being past vice chairman, that I knew.
Okay.
The Parks Department, and I really thank the president for giving us rationale to how he determines how he picks and chooses the committees. I have 4 parks in the 2nd Ward. I have one that's over 238 acres and is going to get $4.1 million over the next 3 years from the parks.
Whoa.
Fine. So I did choose that committee,
Okay.
but apparently I was not qualified for that. I've been on the past streets committees, which in the bond bill we passed yesterday, it was determined I had 3,996 acres of land in the 2nd Ward, which I've always said was the largest ward in the city, but I didn't really know how many acres. And so, though I did not ask for streets because we only get 3 choices, which we used to have 5 in the past, I would have thought I would have qualified for that for sure. Because as you see, I'm upside down with money and have to get into my capital improvement money in order to serve my whole ward to pave streets and alleys because I don't have enough money. And I would have thought I'd been qualified for that too, but I apparently didn't meet that qualification. And as the past chairman of the public utilities, and having one of the utilities departments in my ward, the water department, and was very interested in Veolia and wanted to make sure that the people were served correctly in that. I thought I would have qualified for that as well, and I did not qualify. So I'm really, you know, I don't have a personal vendetta. I didn't do a resolution. All I did was request your survey, and apparently I didn't qualify for anything other than what I chose as the chairperson. And I knew I was going to get that because everybody knows I'm a animal control lady. I'm a health department person. I have a lot of statistics in my ward, and I think we're going to have the happiest committee this year, being the chairman of the Health and Human Services. So regardless of what the alderman thinks of us being those that are not looked on finally by the president, I think we're going to have a very productive committee this year, or the next 2 years. So I just wanted to say that, other than I don't really understand why I wasn't qualified for anything else.
Well, we can sit
being as Mr. Tom corrected me in my letter of resignation, I wrote that I'm the most senior female alderman. I should have said the most.
You say the most female. You say the most female.
Right, I know the most female. So I should have said I've been here for 16 years and I am an African American female, and I apparently have a good record of being here.
You show up.
I show up. I make quorums. I even come to hearings that I'm not on, which is the present case today. But again, I still didn't qualify for anything that has a direct impact on my ward. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and I like what you said, and then I have to also bring the other side to that. Honestly speaking, the average alderperson that is elected here and has been elected here in the last 100 and some years, the average one is not qualified for any of the tasks that are before them.
What the president said.
They do not have the background or experience to do the tasks that is required of them. We learn on the job, We learn from others who have been here longer than us. So technically, none of us have the qualifications for anything that we're doing. And I know the public didn't need to hear that. But it is what it is, you know? So we care about our community. We're willing to step up, take the leadership role, run for office, and serve. So I understand what you just said, but I also understand the other side of it too. So
politics.
Yes, politics.
But I have to ask Mr. Shepherd for a meeting with the president, because I was not consulted after I started to turn in my survey.
Okay.
Last 2 years, you've asked me when I requested public safety if I would step down and let someone else, and I did do that.
Yeah.
I've always been
you
very flexible in the last 8 years of you being president.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
you know, I would like to sit and talk to you about how and what I can do to better serve my constituents here at the board.
Absolutely, I invite that. And the only person, she, you know, was the last session when we had a bunch of people ask for public safety and some of those others. And I had conversations with you and various different all the people if I need them to step down. Like on this time, last minute, you stepped down from a committee because we needed to fit some other people in because of other things they were working on in their ward. There were a lot of other things moving around that you know, like for example, if I'm having a conversation with Joe about something specific in his ward that he's working on with his community and stuff, that really is going to make a difference for him serving on that committee across these next couple of years. I try to make that happen, you know, if I really understand that, yes, that's real and it can make a difference. So then I'll go have a conversation with one another, all the people, and say, hey, would you mind stepping out? You were very cordial in the last session and you did step down. I'd like to sit and talk with you about the community assignments that you have because, you know, there's a lot. But no, I also don't think you should resign because and the reason why is because there may be things that will be coming through those specific committees that you may not have purview or you may not have knowledge of that you will want to have a voice on and you can make a difference in. So I'd ask you to stay locked into them for a second before just saying, well, you know, I'm done. So that's
I've been the chairman of the convention in tourism.
I understand.
One committee here.
I understand.
Oh, it's hopping now. We've been doing good stuff.
I
wanted to get back on there.
Well, I understand that, but I'm more interested in MSI on public safety. You know, there are some things that, you know, I think that need to be addressed here with having that in my ward. But, you know, I feel that my experience and my attendance and my knowledge of being here 16 years would have served better. But convention and tourism, honestly, I can come to that hearing and hear anything.
No, but there's some part that before you, I'm telling you, don't just
prayers, I've been the chairman of that too. I haven't had not one thing come across my desk.
It doesn't mean that.
I don't want nothing to do with no football stadium.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that in this next session that it. No, you're not.
Oh, I'm off.
Point of order, can we get back to the meeting? We're not talking about a resolution, we're now talking about the committee.
Okay, so we're kind of moving.
Sorry.
You all need to do your sidebar. So now.
I was going through my list just to clarify some things that was said because I don't want, you know, information being out there that's not really accurate. Mr. President talked about how I asked for a meeting, he set up a meeting, and I couldn't come to the meeting. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened.
Now, honestly speaking, I won't. I don't want to hear it.
So it's
as a chairman, I don't want to hear it.
But I did ask for a meeting.
I don't want to hear it.
And it wasn't.
And we've been through that 4 or 5 times. I've heard that story already. And most of the people sitting here, if they were on the floor that day, they heard this story too. So I don't want to rehash that here. It's not necessary. It's not pertinent to what is this resolution 13 is about. That form. It's really not pertinent about that. It really isn't. So no. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Now, I've digested this, and I didn't want to do it, but I want y'all to work with me on this committee. So I'm gonna go with the committee, and we're gonna have to take a vote. Yes, you can go.
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy. Can I ask, just for clarification?
Motion.
We need a motion anyway, but.
There's no motion.
There's no motion, and I'm really sorry.
But
you know how much, you see how much I don't want to take a vote right now?
And then also,
you know I know better.
So isn't also clarify, so if we vote no, this is done and over, yes, it moves on. So then I would motion that we take a vote, but I want to be clear on how I'm voting.
And I shall clarify that too. And when I check out on something, I sometimes don't do the right thing because I did not want to take a vote today. So I'm willing to entertain a motion to pass out resolution number 13.
And I'll make that motion.
You'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Will you roll call, please?
Who made the second?
Alderman Rhodey, Alderman Kennedy,
No.
Alderman Vollmer,
No.
Alderman Vaccaro, No. Alderwoman Engrossment,
No.
Chairwoman Davis.
No.
5 no votes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forget you said.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
President Reed, I'm sorry.
We both messed up. Go ahead.
President Reed,
No.
6 no votes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Alderman from the 22nd, I'd love to meet with you. We do it evenings, weekends, it doesn't matter, just let me
Y'all have a
know.
sidebar, and I want to close out the committee letting you know that I will assign another Rules Committee meeting in 2 weeks, and we'll be taking up Antonio French's, was that a resolution?
This was a resolution, Alderman from the 18th knows more about it.
Okay. Well, we don't need, but I just want to let you know, so you can put it on your calendar as you're preparing for the next few weeks. I will have, and it will also be on a Wednesday about this time, okay? All right.
And I just want to thank the committee for hearing the resolution, Madam Chairperson. It was quite okay that it failed, but I want to be heard, so I just want to appreciate that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you.